Hey moms, welcome to Happy Hips to Prepare for Labor. So this class is for moms in the third trimester who are moving towards their due date. So you can practice this sequence essentially for at least the last 4 weeks in your pregnancy. The focus, of course, is to prepare for labor. So a lot of these poses that we'll be working with today are creating some internal and external rotation within your hips. And this is going to be helpful as you move through labor to draw and move the baby in towards the pelvic inlet and, of course, eventually towards the pelvic outlet. So internal and external rotation is incredibly important because this is going to help facilitate some of those movements in the pelvis to help you deliver your baby. What you'll also notice is probably a lot of these poses today are going to be instinctual. So if you've ever witnessed another mother birth, a lot of these movements I'm going to be talking about are very instinctual, such as squatting and bearing down, the need to draw that weight down in towards the pelvis. So happy hips for your labor and delivery. This, by the way, is Baxter. He's a new puppy. You're probably going to see him a lot now on these videos because he literally does not leave my side. So welcome, Baxter, and I hope that he gives you as much joy as he does so far for me and my family. A few things you're going to need for today's class. You're going to need 2 bolsters or at least a few pillows, 3 pillows, 4 pillows, something that's going to give you a little bit of height and elongation, and definitely a stiffer pillow or a yoga bolster. And you'll also need a couple blocks. I'm going to recommend at least 2 to 3 blocks so that we can help work with a supported squat. So yoga blocks are going to work great if you have maybe a few stacks of thicker books. Those are also going to work well. So anything that's going to allow you that elevation. I also want you to make sure that you have a space by the wall. So I'm going to, towards the end of the class, lean against this bookcase. And I want you to set up your mat so that you're close to a wall space so that we can eventually just kind of shimmy over and work towards this wall space to continue facilitating that openness in the hips. So go ahead and move your mat to that space and then join me seated on your mat and we'll get started with a nice gentle restorative position. So to begin, we're actually going to need both of our bolsters or a couple pillows and something to help support underneath the hips and pelvis. So you can use a few blocks or another bolster. So I'm going to take this bolster and a block underneath and behind me so that I can lay down. And moms in the third trimester, what we actually want is some elevation. So this is going to be helpful for you to not create a ton of pressure on the low back because the back bend, or at least this ability to extend and move into a back bend, is less. So you want to try to take something to elevate the bolster so that we're more of on an incline. And then this other bolster, or you can use 2 blocks, is going to help support my hips and pelvis. So remember that we're not sometimes looking for deeper activation or deeper stretch. Sometimes we want a little bit of stability as well. And because the focus of this class is moving between internal and external rotation, which is going to help create a lot of movements in the hips and pelvis, for this portion we want to feel more stable. So we'll go ahead and take your sacrum to the very back of the bolster once you've created your elevation and as much height as you choose. For now, I'm going to make sure that I have this bolster, or you can take something underneath the flesh of the thighs, just whatever it is that's going to help support the pelvis. I'm going to bring my hands back to the bolster. I'm going to hug onto baby as I lean all the way back. So this is so wonderful for moms in the third trimester, and just make sure that the elevation feels appropriate. What's lovely about this pose is that it allows us to roll the shoulders back and open up through the front of the chest. And then I have this prop just tucked underneath my hips so that it helps support the pelvis. So the base of the sacrum and the tailbone are on the floor. And then I'll take the arms out to the side with the palms of the hands facing up. So we'll pause here for just a moment, kind of assimilating ourselves into this pose. So this is referred to as our reclining bound angle, but definitely please take some elevation in your third trimester. So let's go ahead, take a nice full breath in towards the lower belly, and then a big audible exhale out. So one more as such, take a full inhalation to lift and expand, and then big audible exhale to let go. So we first quiet that space between the eyebrow center. Keep your lips together, separate the teeth, and let the tongue slowly fall to the bottom of the mouth. Watching as the inhalation starts to lift and expand the front line of the body. And then upon this nice, slow, long, deep exhalation, letting go of any tension through the shoulders. So you want to feel as though the shoulders are just kind of draping over top of the bolster, which is a beautiful stretch for the front of the chest and into those pecs that are becoming a bit tight because of the demand of the tissue in the breasts. Next inhalation, please inhale, breathe into the lower part of the belly, and then as you exhale, let the weight of your belly begin to soften towards the lower spine. Moving our awareness into the hips and the pelvis, so please feel the support of the props that you've placed underneath the flesh of the thighs. And on this next exhalation, just rooting down through the sacrum and through the tailbone, so feeling this foundation of support beneath you. Continue with the inhalations to lift and lengthen up the front line of the body, and the exhalation to completely surrender. So we're surrendering into the bolsters, into the floor, letting go of tension through the shoulders, the spine, and the base of the pelvis. And then as the body begins to trust the support of the floor beneath, we begin to move our attention and our awareness to our breath. So we know that the process of labor, one of the biggest intentions is focusing on the breath work. The breath is going to move us through those contractions. So the easiest breath work to focus on and that we practice this whole time is called your equal breathing. It's the number one breath we use in labor to work with contractions. It's quite simple. It won't exhaust you. So here, just take a nice full inhalation, and I want you to work to a numbered count. So if it's 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, perhaps even a few counts higher, and then nice, slow, long, deep exhalation out. So try to draw the inhalation to the same length and depth as the exhalations. And I want you to note your count. So on the count, perhaps it's 6, 7, or 8. And as we move through our last trimester, and particularly for those of you that are perhaps in that last month of your gestation, noting this count and take this counted breath with you. Note that as you move through the contractions, you're going to move with that breath until you reach your count, just making sure that the breath doesn't feel forced, stuck, or tense. So we feel the inhalation ultimately expand, creating that new awareness. And then on the exhalation, continue to let go. So we're letting go of that which no longer serves us in this moment, and especially as you move towards labor and delivery. So any of those fears, any limitations, any expectations, any judgments. So focusing on your numbered count, draw the inhalations to the same length and depth as the exhalations, and that is your laboring breath. After this next elongated exhalation, just quietly return your breath back to its natural and normal pace and noticing the difference. Does this breath feel a little shorter? Can you move this breath into the spaces of your body where you feel perhaps coolness or tightness or the effects of laying in this pose for a few more moments? So complete and ultimate surrender. We'll take a full inhalation and then a nice big audible exhale to return. So without adjusting your shoulders, and you can keep your eyes closed, just slowly begin to bring the feet to the floor, so the pads of the feet one at a time. Good. You might have to shift your tailbone slightly forward and then let your knees rest towards one another. So they don't have to entirely come together, especially if you're feeling a lot of pressure in the front of your pubis. So you can just let your knees draw towards one another. And this is creating some internal rotation. So what we'll learn is internal rotation is moving the sit bones apart. So that's going to activate and be really helpful when you're delivering your baby. Our external rotation is going to be helpful to move baby and descend baby in towards the pelvis. So let's just let the legs sway over to the left side, over to the right side. So doing this a few more times. So you can remove the bolster or at least those blocks just for a moment. And we'll roll over, so using that free hand just to help support you as you transition yourself onto your side. So with this free hand here to support you, just pausing for a moment, taking a nice deep inhalation. See if you can integrate that breath in towards the back body. So can you breathe into that lower, middle to upper spine? And as you exhale, can you release from the upper, middle to lower? So pressing into the palm of that free hand, and I'm going to go ahead and prop myself here on my right elbow with my right elbow underneath the shoulder. And then I'll stretch my legs out so the feet are on top of one another, stacked on top of one another with the toes pointing forward. So this is a pretty big lateral stretch, which is why we're starting with it for here. And if it feels like it's too intense, know that if you slide your elbow more forward, you'll have to press into the shoulder. You'll at least reduce that stretch along the side body. So if your elbow's underneath the shoulder and it presents too much of a stretch, just know that you can draw your elbow more to the front edge of the mat. Feet are stacked on top. Just take the hand to the waist. So it's almost like we're standing on our feet, but we're stacking hips and feet on top. Okay. So the legs are really charged. We're drawing the thighs towards the front of the hip and we're hugging onto baby. Okay. Big breath in. So here we'll go ahead and bend this top leg. So this is our left leg, bringing the pad of the foot to the floor. So now we're in, again, if we were standing, into our tree pose, but this is a lateral stretch. So big inhalation here. We're just trying to stay balanced on this bottom leg, creating some nice deep external rotation and pressing away from the floor. So big breath in, doesn't require a lot, just allowing these adductors to stretch. Eventually these will become, if you choose to push, these will become your pushing muscles. So we actually need them quite active and strong. With one more big breath in here, on the exhalation, please go ahead and move your knee towards the shoulder, and then we'll bend the right leg, that bottom leg, so it just provides more support for the pelvis. And we'll pause here. So I talk a lot about this one because this is going to be one of your optimal birthing positions. Side laying positions, even if you've taken an epidural, way better than laying on your back. You can also take your hand underneath the knee, which allows you the availability when you do start to push towards delivery to help create more stability in the pelvis and less pressure. Okay. Another alternative here is, again, I want you to slowly start to roll your thigh in. So we create a little bit of internal rotation, lifting your heel up. So that's going to help widen the sit bones, great for delivery. The alternative position, drop your heel down and move your knee back. So that's that external rotation. So one more time, these are actually really wonderful small laboring movements that you can do while you're in your bed, perhaps, moving baby in towards the pelvis and creating some movement within those SI joints. We'll lower the leg to the floor. Good. Just to release the shoulders, stretch the arm in front, coming back into that side lay position. And I always like to tuck my hand kind of behind my head for some support. Just a nice deep resting breath in here. So when you inhale, trying to now actively breathe into the sideline of your body. And then as you exhale, can you soften the tops of your shoulders? Good. We'll take one more full inhalation. As you exhale, pushing into the palm of this free hand, this left hand, and we'll draw into a seated position, but we're just going to spin our legs over to the other side. So we're going to work that pose to the other side. Good. So we're going to stretch the legs in front. Feet are stacked on top. So if you look down your legs, we have this nice straight line. We're hugging onto baby. And now I have my left elbow underneath my left shoulder. So a little activation. This is a great way to start to stretch into some of those intercostal muscles. Pausing here, lots of flexion through the feet, and hugging onto baby if you feel like there's a ton of tension through the lower belly. Remember to walk the elbow forward, or you can also come into a side lay position in any of these movements. So completely your choice. Hopefully if you're working with this position, when you move into labor and delivery, perhaps at the hospital, you're tucking a pillow underneath so you have some support. Please bend your right leg, bring the foot to the inside of the thigh. It can also come down to the inside of the calf if you need. And we're just creating that external rotation. So we're just pausing here, pressing into this left forearm. So we have a nice big breath in, allowing the breath to move down into the space here along the left side of the body. So we're just working on allowing these adductors to open. If you're going a little further, certainly the foot is to the thigh. My bottom leg's still strong, so it's helping me stay supported in this pose. We'll draw the knee now. So your right knee towards your right shoulder. Pausing here. Good. So this is the optimal birthing position. I'm going to say it over and over again. Please know that you have options when you labor. If you're much more comfortable on your side, on your hands and knees, then that's a great thing for you. Remember that this is your birth. So if you move the knee towards the shoulder, just getting a little bit more range, and this will be a great pushing mechanism because you can hold on to your leg to support that pressure downwards if you need. And then we'll internally rotate the thigh so the heel lifts up. Pause and hold, and just note how different this is on your right side versus your left. For me, this is a bit more challenging. And then if you draw your heel down towards its opposite leg, rotate your hip out, creating a little bit of external rotation. So these movements, if you feel, when you're really in tune with your contractions in your body, these are the movements you're working with. External rotation and internal rotation. We'll lower the leg down. Good. Straightening the arm, resting the head to the arm, palm of the hand just faces behind to hold and cradle the back of the head, and then the right hand to the floor, and we'll pause here. So take a nice big breath in, big exhale out. So pushing to the palm of this free hand, we'll lift ourselves back into a seated position. And then you can move your props away from you as they were probably still behind you. Wonderful. So just positioning yourself into a cross-legged position, finding some support. Third trimester, if you're feeling like there's a lot of tightness in your hips and your knees, and you need at some point more foundation, more support, then please feel free to sit on a block to elevate your knees so they align with your hips. Palms of the hands will face down. Let's roll the shoulders onto the back. Taking a nice big inhalation, trying to reach the ribs away from the hips. So creating space for babies. Keep the shoulders as they are. And then as you exhale, letting the weight of your right ear fall over to the right shoulder. So just pausing here for a moment. Take a nice big breath in. We want to feel evenness through the shoulders as well as the sit bones. You're not leaning too far in that right sit bone. So big inhalation, keep moving the ribs away from the hips, length through the spine, and as you exhale, letting the weight of the ear begin to fall towards the top of the shoulder. Let's exhale, lift that chin parallel, moving to the other side. So on this exhalation here, letting your left ear fall over to your left shoulder. So the shoulders are level, okay, as are your hips and pelvis. So big breath in, reaching the ribs away, creating space for babies. And as you exhale, can you allow the weight of your ear to fall towards the shoulder? So there's always a method to my madness throughout these classes. So the reason why I get you to close your eyes and really integrate the breath into the body is because that's what the laboring experience is about, is noticing the sensations in your body as you have these contractions and the baby starts to descend, and moving the breath to integrate that space, to integrate that awareness, to integrate that openness. One more big breath in as you exhale. Let's lift the chin parallel, bring the gaze to look forward. Please switch the direction of the cross of your shins, taking right hand over to the left knee, and then we'll exhale, reach this left arm up and over. So soften through the top of the shoulder, gazing forward. We now take a deep inhalation. We're breathing here through those lateral left ribs, and then as you exhale, we gently fall over to the side. So pressing down through this left sit bone and reaching up through the left fingertips. You can bring your gaze to look underneath. We're hugging onto baby just to ensure our lower back feels safe. And then we're breathing into these intercostal muscles along the side of the body. One more full breath in. Let's exhale, root down through the sit bone, and we'll switch sides. So we have left hand to the right knee. Exhale, reach that right arm up and over. Taking a big breath in, breathing through the right side. And as you exhale, we soften to the left. So reaching up now through the right fingertips and trying to actively press down through the right sit bone. So lots of breath through the side body, shoulder away from the ear, hugging onto baby. Deep inhalation, and as you exhale, we'll press down through the sit bone and we'll draw back. Wonderful. Stretching the legs in front, nice little shakeout. So coming back to your dominant cross, so whichever feels more comfortable with the shin in front, and we'll work with something called Sacrum Circles. So these are really nice, again, to kind of create some movement in the sacrum. Hinging forward from the hips, you're rooting down through both sit bones, placing the hands on the knees, and then we just slowly start to move forward. Now, we don't want you to feel any pressure on your pelvic floor muscles, so those circles are quite small to begin with. You're hinging forward, tipping your pelvis in front, and then as we slowly begin to roll back, so we're leaning ever so carefully in towards the back of the sacrum. So we have an anterior pelvic tilt as we lean forward, and then just a gentle posterior pelvic tilt when you lean back. So the movements might be quite small if you feel like this is really intense. If you feel like you can keep going, even pressing into the palms of the hands, and you can even start to make those circles a little bit bigger. So you can kind of use your hands on your knees to really keep that sacrum just a bit more fixed and the sit bones towards the floor. And I like women to kind of close their eyes. Good. You can even kind of integrate more of the breath in the movement. Sometimes I even get moms to kind of draw their head back, whatever feels natural in their own body. So these are some of the things that you'll note, maybe not for your own labor, but certainly when you start to see moms, they really close their eyes and they start to move with the breath. Let's draw back to center with the shoulders over top of the hips, and we're going to move the other way. So hopefully you remembered which way you moved. So we hinge forward, we push into the palms of the hands. We just kind of roll the shoulders forward, shoulders back. But the movement's from the hips, so we're tipping the pelvis forward and then gently leaning into the low back. Okay. So kind of like a saucer movement. So what's fixed are your sit bones towards the floor, hands on the knees to help kind of keep the knees from lifting up. And this can feel really nice. And then just flow with it. Close your eyes, let your shoulders go. Good. Becomes very instinctual, as I mentioned, for women to just move with their body and their breath. It almost begins to feel like your body kind of moves on its own. And our job is to facilitate that connection of breathing in towards the body. All right, let's slowly send the shoulders over top of the hips to bring the gaze forward. We'll uncross the legs, give the legs a nice big shake out. We'll bend the right leg, bring the pad of the foot to the inside of your left thigh. And then we'll lean over to this right side, bend your knee, and with the ankle beside the hip, your toes will point behind you. So that might require you to rotate your calf out just a little bit. So 2 things with this left foot is your toes will point behind. If it feels more comfortable, it's okay to have the toes pointing out to the side. Just making sure the first thing is that you shouldn't feel any tension or pain on the front of your knee. So adjust your foot accordingly to make sure there's no tension. Here we'll take the left hand out to the side, reaching out this right arm up and over. So stretching through the tips of the fingers, rolling the shoulders back. We're taking again a nice big inhalation here, breathing through that lateral right side. And then as you exhale, we draw the shoulder away from the ear. So rooting down through the sit bone, trying to feel a bit of a balance through the sit bones, but of course, that right sit bone is more connected to the left. Okay. Turning this into a twist, we'll bring the right hand behind the back, left hand to the knee. Roll the shoulders back, just sitting up nice and tall. Take a big breath in, create space. And on the exhalation, we gently begin to rotate through the upper chest and shoulders. So please be mindful. Our rotation, especially in the 3rd trimester, becomes a bit more challenging because we don't have a ton of room between, of course, baby and the internal organs. So being really mindful here that this movement is very subtle. And then on the exhalation, just releasing back and down into this left sit bone. So we want to feel some heaviness just through that left glute to make sure that we're not kind of charging too much into the front of the hips, thighs, and pelvis. So one more big breath in. On the exhalation, just square your shoulders forward, bring your hands behind your back, roll the shoulders back, sitting up nice and tall. So this might be your stop point. If you're really feeling this in your hips and in the fronts of the knees, you can also bring your hands out to the side. What we'll slowly start to do is begin to hinge forward from the hips. So some of you might even want to bring your fingertips forward, and only if there's no demand on that front knee. So the big breath in, reaching the chest and heart forward, maybe on the exhalation, a little bit of a forward fold. So rooting down, we have that connection through the right sit bone, but we're still trying to release down and into the left side. So awakening into the left hip. And you will hinge forward as far forward as you would like to go. We have, of course, baby in the way in this movement, so you can really only go so far forward. And we're just keeping the shoulders away from the ears. So now just closing the eyes, taking a nice big breath in. So on the exhalation, can you let go and in towards the pelvis? So can you bring that energy and that space downward in towards the pelvis? With one more full breath in, let's walk the fingertips back towards that right shin, sending the shoulders over top of the hips. And then lean once again to the right side just to stretch the legs in front. Nice little shake out. So bring the left knee in, pad of the foot to the inside of the thigh, leaning over to that left side, and we'll bend the right knee. So again, heel beside the hip. You're either on the top of the foot, might require just a little bit of rotation through the calf, or please adjust the foot so that you feel no tension in the front of the knee. If that's the case, you can always stretch the leg out instead of having that knee bent. Every single day changes in terms of movement and exercise in pregnancy. So if you're really starting to feel the effects moving towards, again, your due date, then make those adjustments accordingly. We'll take the right hand out to the side, and now we reach this left arm up and over. So soften through the shoulder. There's just a gentle lean back. It can be as small or big of a stretch as you choose. Reaching through the side body and up through the tips of the fingers. So have a big breath in. As you exhale, keep the shoulder away from the ear, and then breathing into the right sit bone. So just allow your glutes to relax. Good. Next exhalation into a twist. Left hand draws behind you. Right hand to the left knee. So without kind of pushing this hip forward, we're really keeping that sit bone drawing down. Take a nice big breath in, reaching the ribs away from the hips. And then as you exhale, we gently begin to rotate over to the left. So please be mindful here. It's a really small movement. Most of it, that's upper chest and back, looking over that left shoulder. And here we're releasing into the right glute. So big breath in. Rotation's nice, of course, for moms during pregnancy because we can release and create a little bit of that rotation to open into that upper chest and back, especially as our shoulders start to roll more forward. So full inhalation. On this exhalation, let's square the shoulders forward. Good. Here's our forward fold. So either hands behind the back, just staying here, hands out to the side, gives you a little bit more leverage. Or if you know that you can hinge forward without any pain in the front knee, take a big breath in. We're actively tipping the pelvis forward. So on the exhalation, we begin to hinge forward. It doesn't take much. When you feel the demands physically in this posture, that's when we start to really integrate the breath. So you can close the eyes. And as we move into labor, the integration is everything downwards. So big breath in. On the exhalation, can you start to feel the sit bones move down towards the floor? Even noting what's happening in the lower part of your spine and the back of the sacrum. Can you, on the exhalation, breathe into that space? Can you move the breath to that space? One more big breath in. On this exhalation, walking your hands back towards the left shin. We lean to the left side to stretch the legs in front. And as always, giving your legs a nice little shake out. Moving your heels over to the left or right side, and we'll gently come forward onto hands and knees. So if you do need some cushion, please, underneath your knees, great to do so. Third trimester can definitely get a little bit achy on the knees. Hips are over top of your knees and your shoulders are over top of your wrists. So first we'll do a few ranges of cat-cow, and then we're going to create a little bit more depth to this. So when you inhale, look forward, reach the sit bones up, nice big exhale, press through those index fingers and thumbs to draw the tailbone down. So every inhalation will guide chest and heart forward, and then every exhalation pressing firmly into the earth. Arms are nice and straight, and we perhaps begin to look towards our beautiful bellies. Wonderful. So just starting to integrate the breath. You can close your eyes, just working at your own pace. The inhalation is all about that lower back, but please make sure you're hugging onto baby so it doesn't feel like too much. We're now a little bit fuller in our gestation, so the belly really has a tendency to draw down towards the floor, creating kind of excessive tension in the back. And then we exhale to round. Let's just draw back to neutral, looking forward. Walk your hands slightly in front. So this downward facing dog is completely optional. If you feel like you just don't have the energy today, please know that you can move into your wide-legged child's pose. And then we'll take some movement here with a nice deep bend into one knee. At this point, you might even find that your stance needs to be a little bit wider. So we have some movement here with a bend into one knee, rooting and pressing through its opposite heel. So moving from hip to hip and side to side. Good. Exhale, we'll gently bend into the knees and we'll come back down onto all fours. So moving into our extended puppy pose. No irony there, but it gets a little bit more challenging in the third trimester to move the sit bones back towards the heels because we feel like the belly kind of pushes down into the organs. So extended puppy pose is actually a really nice laboring position when you're at home. So first I want you just to draw down on your elbows. Your elbows are underneath the shoulders, and we have to hug baby in to, again, make sure there's not a ton of tension in the low back. However, this slight anterior pelvic tilt, okay, of creating a bit more back bend or that lordosis can feel really good on the back of your sacrum if the baby is in a position where the back of their head is resting on the back of your sacrum, which is referred to as back labor. Otherwise, you can extend the arms forward and rest the forehead to the floor. So this is going to give you a deeper shoulder stretch. So please be mindful. You can always back up onto the elbows. So big inhalation here. We're breathing into the back line of the body. So lower belly, back line of the body. So lower back, mid to upper spine. And then as you exhale, just let the chest and heart begin to fall towards the floor. And you should feel like you're reaching your fingertips forward and pressing the sit bones back while you hug onto baby. So that's a great way to lengthen the spine. And generally speaking, let's all draw onto the forearms once again. This becomes a very active position for moms when they're laboring, especially, as I mentioned, if there's tension in the back. So pressing into the palms of the hands, we'll straighten the arms, coming back onto all fours. And then I want you to start to move a little bit. So we're going to create some circles once again. You can take the hands a little wider apart if you need, but I want you to move your hips back towards the heels and then kind of roll the hips forward. Okay. You can look forward. You can kind of start to integrate the spine a little bit. So as you roll forward, your chest kind of opens and lengthens, but as you roll back, you might feel that need to kind of round the shoulders towards the ears. So these also incredibly instinctual for moms when they start to labor. Movement, we know that we have to move. Something is shifting. The baby is moving in towards the pelvis. So please start to draw into the opposite direction. Okay. If you close the eyes, just moving the breath into the spaces of the body. Don't question what your body's doing. If it feels good, that's the most important thing. And remember, please, that you know your body more than anyone. You know these sensations. You know the rhythms. You know your baby. Don't ever, ever, ever discredit that. Send the shoulders back over top of the wrists. Good. Maybe even giving the wrists a little bit of a shake out. Curling the toes under one more time. We'll move here into that downward facing dog. So the nice deep bend into one knee, starting to root and press to its opposite heel. So moving from hip to hip and side to side. Good. On the exhalation, let's gently bend into the knees, coming back down onto all fours. So while we're on all fours, we're going to work with some leg circles as well, which is really great for our hips. So we'll start with this right leg, kneeling on the left. Good. And then I want you to draw your knee forward and imagine that you're starting to slowly draw circles with your knee. Now I suggest the knee, but the movement is 100% from the hips. So we're moving the knee. So we're moving the hips out. We're kind of drawing that foot back. Can you move a little bit into that internal and external rotation? We won't be here too long. Let's reverse that circle. So can you draw back? So the movements from the hips, that internal and external rotation from the hips, drawing the leg back, but creating a circle with your knees. Good. Just to give our wrists a bit of a break, draw back onto all fours, either moving down onto the elbows into your extended puppy pose or reach the arms forward, forehead to the floor. We're hugging onto baby, reaching the sit bones back, lengthening through the tips of the fingers, drawing the breath into the side body, and as you exhale, allow the chest and heart to fall. One more big breath in. Next exhalation, slide the hands underneath the shoulders, and we'll straighten the arms. Here, working with the left leg, so now drawing down through the right, we'll pick the left leg up. So slow and steady movements, and you can start off a little bit smaller if you want. Okay. And then really kind of challenging yourself with the width and openness. So imagine you're drawing that circle with the knee, but the movement's all about the hips and the pelvis. So closing the eyes, it can feel really good for that energy. Again, the somatics, moving the energy and the integration, the emotion in the body, and then we'll reverse that into its opposite direction. So as slow as you can, as methodical as you can, close the eyes. And rather than thinking about the movement, can you just think about the emotion, what you're feeling, that sensation behind these movements? And then we'll lower the left knee to the floor. Good. One more time, drawing down onto the forearms. And I just want you to gently move your sit bones back. So you might have to take your knees a little bit wider, especially if you feel some pressure in the front of the hips. Just take a big breath in. And then as you exhale, this expression is more about moving the sit bones back. Another nice movement is from side to side. So while we're here, I want you to move and sway your hips over to the left side. Pause and hold. And move and sway your hips over to that right side. So we're just kind of going left to right. You can also feel nice, and it's very rhythmic. When we can move into our contractions, and we're working through contractions at home, it's very rhythmic. So remember, flow forward and back, side to side, circles. Anything that starts to move that breath in and down towards your pelvis. One more big breath in, sending the shoulders and hips to parallel the floor, hands underneath, and once again, we'll press onto hands and knees. So here's where you need a block or two, and we'll be transitioning into sort of a supported squat. So I'm just gonna go ahead and grab 3 of my blocks, and I'm gonna place them just beside me so that I can use them in a moment. I'll take one of the blocks. We're gonna bring the knees towards one another. I'll show you a different angle in just a moment. Heels out to the side. So this block is going to go horizontal so that it can appropriately support both sit bones, the left and the right. Just don't have it in a vertical position. You can also roll your calves out. So we're on the tops of the feet with the toes pointing behind us. And this is a really nice stretch for your hips and thighs. So to show you from the front, making sure again that the knees are forward. There can be a little bit of space again. That really depends on the pressure in the pubis. Your heels are beside the hips and you're on the tops of the feet. So if this is straining the front of the hips, this means that you need 2 blocks. So please sit up on 2 blocks versus 1. Okay. So because we've been working a lot of internal, external rotation in the hips, we're also going to do so through the shoulders. So we'll bring the palms of the hands together. This is nice for the wrists because we've been on our wrists for so long. Your elbows align with the wrists and your elbows also align with the shoulders. So palms of the hands together. You're going to press and squeeze the hands together for a moment and really feel that in the front of your shoulders. Like the front of your shoulders are coming forward towards your elbows. Get? And then this is all about the shoulders, even though we're moving again from the wrists, right? So the movement's through the shoulders, but the integration is from the wrists. You're going to point your fingertips down towards the floor, and then you're going to draw your fingers towards your heart. So this is bringing some internal rotation into your shoulders, and this is bringing some external rotation in the shoulders. Got it? You can do that a few times. So keep the pressure even through the palms of the hands. You can even close the eyes, noticing which feels a bit easier for you. Is it that inhalation or that internal rotation, bringing the hands towards the heart, or that external rotation, bringing your hands down towards the floor? Good. And then lastly, let's bring the palms of the hands together. Squeeze and press the hands, and then as you exhale, we'll lower the shoulders. It's a big stretch. It's very subtle. Rolling the shoulders back a few times. So here's how we're going to move into our supported squat, right? Mom's in the 3rd trimester. So I want you to bring your right leg forward. So this is going to be an alternative, yeah? If you're quite far along in your pregnancy, 38, 39 weeks, sitting up might be a little bit more challenging. So I want you to stay here and work with the modification. Just watch me go up into the full pose and just decide if that's where you want to go. So we can go here with one leg out and one knee staying as it is. That's the modification. If you feel like you'd like to join me a little bit higher, here's where we're going to start to place just a little bit more propping underneath your sacrum or pelvis. So this might be, again, a little bit higher. Some of you might even want to go one step. So just remember that it's hard to come out of these positions. To come into the full position, if you choose, pressing into the right foot, and we'll lift the left leg up. Now that's a lot of demand on the pelvic floor muscles, so we're doing so with an exhalation. So your choice here, just looking down so your knees are over top of your ankles, and this is where you can start to create more movement if you choose. So this is going to be the safest, more supportive. We're still creating this external rotation here as we pause and hold. If you want a little bit more in your hips and pelvis, you can start to reduce the blocks. You can lean forward, remove a block at a time. Safest way, of course, is to lay that knee down, leaning forward. Good. So I'm going to stay on 2 blocks. Forearms are on to the tops of the knees, and I'm just going to close my eyes. And I want you to try to walk your feet back as far as they can go, where you start to feel some demand on your inner thighs or hips, so into those adductors. Take a nice big inhalation. Let's sit up nice and tall. And then on the exhalation, can you relax your glutes? So can you just feel the heaviness of the sit bones begin to sink towards the floor? Okay. So big breath in. On the exhalation, trying to allow the movement of energy to draw down. So for now, when you think about just kind of releasing in towards the front of your pubic bone, of moving the breath down towards your vulva, as if you're just releasing the contraction of your pelvic floor muscles. And so while we're here with the eyes closed, I just want you to start to create whatever movement feels good in your body. So you can start to lean forward. Again, you can roll back as we did a little bit earlier into those sacrum circles. You can have your elbows on your thighs. Your shoulders can roll forward. So whatever feels nice in your body, I just want you to move there. You can close your eyes. You can kind of move from side to side. You can let your head draw back, making sure that we're also moving in the opposite direction. As long as you don't feel any pressure in your pelvic floor muscles. Good. So it becomes, like I said, this very rhythmic dance watching women labor, because you're going into this intrinsic aspect of yourself. You're moving into this different realm of your body that maybe you haven't experienced before. And I just want you to know that it's all normal, that these movements are okay, that the shifting is okay. Good. Let's just draw back to center. Send the shoulders over top of the hips and sit up nice and tall. And I want you to lift your chin up just ever so slightly so we feel this nice length up the front line of the body. Good. So I'd like you to challenge yourself one more time and maybe moving down a little bit lower. Okay. So it's easiest, please, to release the knee to the floor, lean slightly forward, and then see if you can lower your sit bone down. We lean over to the side and we'll place the knee. So again, they're stacked over top of the ankle. Walk your feet back. So I'm supported here. So birthing positions, the probably number one anatomical position other than side laying. We have 3 on all fours. This is going to be the third, squatting. So these are anatomically correct positions to deliver your baby. And squatting meaning I'm not sitting on anything. So there's a space to kind of free the sacrum and the sit bones. So sitting up nice and tall, roll the shoulders back, lengthening through the chest and the heart. So big breath in. So the difference between sitting down on something when you're laboring where the sacrum is fixed and hovering above. But I want you to get into this concept of how powerful the squatting position can be. So we're lengthening through the chest and the heart, create space for babies. And as you exhale, just soften the shoulders away from the ear. So I want you to integrate the breath as you close your eyes and focus on your pelvic floor. So I've talked lots about the ability to down train. So on the exhalation, we're really trying to let go of the contraction of the pelvic floor muscles to allow baby's head to move down towards that pelvic outlet. So reaching ribs away. Good. Growing long through the crown. And on the exhalation, we feel this heaviness, the support below of the sit bones. Good. Onto the block. So birthing squats, incredible. You can use your partner to help hold on to your arms and allow your head to draw towards the chest so they can support you in this position, but still a great, lovely movement for external rotation. So one more big breath in. On this next exhalation, good. Leaning over to the right side, just go ahead and fold your left leg as it was when we had that hero pose, leaning to the left side, and then we're back here with our knees slightly apart. Interlace the fingers, rotate the palms of the hands forward, and reaching the arms up and overhead. So chin is parallel. We're hugging the arms towards the ears, reaching the ribs away from the hips, but lots of heaviness through the sit bones. So drawing the ribs just ever so carefully back. Take a big breath in. Good. Here I want you to lower your chin towards the chest for just a moment. Keeping the shoulders back. So using the breath to integrate into the back line of the body, and then we'll lift the chin forward. Hands on the thighs, rolling the shoulders away from the ears. Take the opposite interlace of your fingers, rotating the palms of the hands forward. We'll reach the arms up and overhead. So soften the shoulders away from the ears. Hug the arms in, chin is parallel, throat relaxed. Take a nice big breath in through the side body, and then as you exhale, letting the heaviness of the sit bone draws down. So we want to feel, again, there's always this connection when we labor of the pelvis down and the movement kind of swirling around, but drawing the energy down. In our practice of yoga, this is called a Pana Vayu, so the downward energy, which helps us assist in this childbirth and laboring experience. Arms come forward, hands on the thighs, rolling the shoulders back. To come out, I'm just going to switch views so that you can see. So to come out, I'm just going to hinge forward for a moment. I'm going to switch views so you can see. Let's curl the left toes under, pushing through the heel of the left foot. So it's going to be really helpful for your knees to press the left foot back. Good. We'll switch with the right. So now stretching the right leg back, curl the toes under. So in essence, we want to feel like the heel draws to the back edge of the mat, and you should be able to feel that stretch in towards the back of your knee. Once again, coming onto all fours, spread the fingers nice and wide. Your very last downward facing dog. So moving from hip to hip and side to side can feel pretty nice. You can take your stance a little bit wider. Good. Shift the weight from hip to hip. So you won't necessarily work with this semi-inversion in your labor, but it's certainly going to feel good for right now and in towards those knees. Let's gently bend into the knees, coming back down onto all fours. So here's where you'll please shift your way in towards your wall space, and all you'll need is to have a block handy with you, and we'll work with some of these breathing exercises and movements. So at first, we'll bring the pads of the feet together, coming into your bound angle stretch. Heels towards the pubic bone, but you decide how much of a stretch you would like. So if you want to move your feet a little bit more forward, you certainly can. The arms will just rest alongside. Palms of the hands can face down or up, and then the chin is parallel. So we want to really lean against the wall. You want to feel the whole support of your back against the wall, your lower back against the wall, and essentially your upper back, so that we are giving a gentle stretch into that upper thoracic. And then I'd like you to close your eyes. So we're going to take a nice full inhalation, lifting the breath towards the chest and the heart, and then big exhale out to let go. So quieting the space between the eyebrow center. Keep the lips together, separate the teeth, let the tongue slowly fall to the bottom of the mouth. So when we inhale, we're grounding through the sit bones, keeping that lift and length up the front line of the body. And as you exhale, trying to let go of any unwanted tension. So shoulders, lower back, hips, and thighs. So as we move through the laboring experience, first we always need to become aware of what's happening in the physical body. So at this moment in time, just releasing wherever your stress is held, where you feel the tension, where you feel the contraction of your muscle group. Can you allow each and every exhalation to breathe into that space, feeling this movement of surrender, feeling this level of acceptance that in this moment your physical body is reacting this way, and can you on the exhalation let go? Once the physical body becomes relaxed, then we can start to move inward towards the breathing. Noting the sensations, yes, that are happening physically, but how can we move the breath to that space to continue to find that integration of the breath? So at this moment, while your physical body's relaxed, I want you to move into your Samavriti, your equal breathing. So beginning to draw the inhalations to the same length and depth as the exhalations, letting the breath flow in as you sit up nice and tall, and as you release, as you exhale to let go. Whatever your breath count was at the beginning of this class, that number, allow your breath to draw towards that goal, towards that ascent, that aspiration, and then big, and then nice, slow, long, deep exhalation out. Can you find that space of peacefulness, that space of surrender? Can you remind yourself that you're supported by the wall behind you, by the floor beneath you, by the people that are going to be supporting you throughout this journey? Your partner, perhaps your mother, your doula, your midwife, your labor and delivery nurse, your obstetrician. So inhale, find that expansion, that connectedness with you and your baby, reminding yourself that it's you two that are aware of this journey together. And on the exhalation, letting go of those fears of what the intensity of your contraction might feel like, the fears of moving into the unknown, the fears of becoming a mother. After this next slow, long, deep exhalation out, just return your breath back to its natural and normal pace. Taking a big breath in, nice big exhale out. You can bring your gaze, look forward, hands underneath the knees, and we'll just stretch the legs in front for a moment, giving the legs a nice little shake out. So Badaknasana is external rotation. Again, when we externally rotate, we're creating movements with the sacrum drawing towards one another, and we're opening into the hips and the pelvis. So keep the feet hip width apart, just a little stretch for that upper back. Going to reach your fingers towards your toes, let your shoulders roll forward. So not at the cost of putting a lot of pressure on the top of the uterus, so you can allow your chin to fall down. Take a deep inhalation. We're going to breathe into the back line of the body, and then as you exhale, can you just allow your shoulders to draw forward? Next exhalation, slide the hands up the shins, rounding up vertebrae by vertebrae. Last thing to roll back are the shoulders. Good. Part 2 is to bring the pads of the feet together, but this time we're going to use a block. So here's your small position, right? Less opening, medium, or large. So it kind of depends. My suggestion is always medium. We don't want to overdo it, but placing the block in between your feet to create just a little bit more opening. Good. Hands on the thighs, rolling the shoulders back, and we'll close the eyes. So we're leaning against the wall, allowing and accepting that offering of support. Take a nice big breath in. We're sitting up tall, and upon the exhalation, letting go. So tension first in the physical body. So when you start to feel the intensity of contractions, note where they are in the body. Yes, they are present in this space. And then use the exhalation, move the breath into that space to let go of that tension that builds. But also what moves into play are our emotions, our fears. Fear of the unknown is the biggest fear in our labor and delivery experience, especially for the first time. You have no idea what's about to happen, and that's okay. And every experience, every pregnancy, every mom, every labor, every delivery is so entirely different. The only thing you need to focus on is your physical body, the relationship with the breath, and keep the connection with your baby. So at this moment, let's place one hand on your baby and one hand on your heart. Take a big inhalation, breathe towards the chest and the heart, but still feel that integration and power and warmth in the palm of the hand. And as you exhale, let go of tension. Trust this process, trust this moment, trust this experience with your baby. Letting go again of any fears, any limitations, any expectations, any judgments for what's moving forward into your labor and delivery journey. Remind yourself to stay attuned with your body, with its natural rhythm, with the emotion, and more importantly, with your baby. So when we inhale, find the integration of the breath with the palm of the hand towards your baby and the palm of the hand towards your heart. And if you ever feel in any moment any uncertainty, I want you to remember this space. I want you to remember this moment. I want you to remember this mantra, this connection to your baby. Your baby can feel your entire heart and your entire being. So when you are connected into that space and that energy of your baby, there is solace. There is comfort. There is trust. There is compassion. And there is strength. So big breath in on this next exhalation. Can you relax into your glutes? Can you allow your glutes to release and your hips and pelvis to unfold? Moving into your numbered count. Drawing your inhalations to the same length and depth as the exhalations. Trusting the length of the breath, trusting the depth of the breath, trusting the moments in between the breath. And trusting that your breath is going to be your guide as you move into contractions. The whole intention of our practice is to amalgamate, is to yoke, is to bring together this connection with our physical presence, our spiritual presence, our emotional presence, and our mental presence. Let's take a deep breath in all together. Nice big audible exhale out. Palms of the hands can return to the knees. You can bring your gaze to look forward. Good. Just remove this block. We'll stretch the legs in front and you'll give yourself a nice big shake out again. Legs to the side. Take your feet hip width apart or a little bit wider. Little movement here for that upper chest and back so the shoulders can roll towards the ears. Chin fall towards the chest so the back of the neck is nice and long. So again, you might have to be more upright just as long as there's no pressure on the top of the uterus. We'll take a deep breath in, and then as you exhale, slide the hands towards the hips, bringing your gaze to look forward. So last one here. We'll take this block. It's certainly optional. You can always return to the first bound angle pose without anything. The block is about a half a foot away from the groin, and we'll go ahead and bring the outer edges of the feet onto the block. So this is going to create more external rotation, okay? More availability to move the sit bones together to widen the pelvic inlet, or at least that iliac crest to help descend baby in towards the pelvis. Your choice of moving the heels and the block a little closer towards the groin for more intensity, or if it feels like it's too much, just slide the block forward. You can place your hands around your ankles to sit up nice and tall, shoulders over top of the hips, or again, place your hands on your knees. Taking a big breath in, let's close the eyes. So as you inhale, reaching the crown of the head upwards towards the heavens, connecting to that spiritual self. And as you exhale, letting go of any tension in the physical body. So we start to feel the heaviness of our shoulders. The spine begins to connect behind us towards the wall. And the sit bones in the seat begin to draw down towards the floor. And then I want you to move into your connected breath. So move back to your numbered count. Find that inhalation, lift and expand towards the heart, the throat, between the third eye and the crown, and then on the exhalation, let go of tension, shoulders, spine, base of the hips and pelvis. It's common to feel some sort of energy or sensation in your upper shoulders and back because we are working on sitting up nice and tall, which kind of challenges our prenatal posture. So if you feel like you need to lower your chin towards the chest, it's nice to do so for your shoulders and your neck. And then with the eyes closed and you focusing on your breath, I want you to move into the sensation of what you feel is the power and the intensity of your contractions. So I want you to kind of experience what you feel might be the sensations, the intensity of a contraction. Let it integrate in your body. So as you inhale and that fear comes up of noticing a tightening in the front of the abdomen, also that wraps kind of around the back, move into it with less panic and less fear and more acceptance. So when contractions come about, you will feel them more towards the very top of the uterus, and likely that compared to sort of a menstrual cramp, of course, with more intensity as we start to progress. But if you bring that awareness to the front of your uterus and you feel the intensity wrap around the whole back, I want you just to move into what you feel as though in your body a contraction might feel like. And sit in that space. Notice what comes up. What is the fear? What is the judgment? What is this assumption about these contractions? Can you keep the focus of integrating your breath into the spaces where you feel your body the most? Can you integrate your breath with the focus on your baby? Reminding yourself that each contraction is bringing you closer towards you meeting this physical presence of your baby, seeing your baby for the first time. Can you keep the focus in that space rather than the intensity or the fear behind the contraction? Let your body integrate every single aspect of what that might feel like. But then on the exhalation, let it go. Surrender into that space. Surrender into the unknowingness of the labor journey. Labor is truthfully about acceptance. Accepting this moment, accepting what's happening in this moment, and the acceptance about the growth and change that's about to happen for both you, your baby, and your family. Lifting the chin parallel, take one more big breath, and you can even gently draw the head back. Nice big exhale out. Bringing your gaze to look forward, just remove your feet one at a time off the block. You'll go ahead and stretch the legs forward and give yourself a nice little shake out. And just kind of move and wag your feet from side to side. I just want you to shimmy yourself slightly forward away from the wall. Or good. Bring the pads of the feet to the floor. Lean back so that your knees are pointing up. And you're just very gently resting on the back of your sacrum. And then let your legs just sway over to the left side. Letting your legs sway over to the right side. Also a really nice movement. We're coming into internal rotation on that front leg. And kind of external rotation on that back leg. Perfect. Pads of the feet will come together. Hands will draw towards the toes. And then as you exhale, take that gentle round forward shoulders towards the ears. And we'll pause here. So take a nice big breath in. Big exhale out. Next exhale, slide the hands up the shins, rounding up vertebrae by vertebrae. Last thing to roll back are the shoulders, followed by the gaze. So really great here. We'll start to move ourselves into our practice of Shavasana. You'll need your block and probably your pillow or your bolster, just something to rest your head on here so we feel some complete support. The block goes in between your knees. We're either laying on that left or right side, and you can take the bolster or the pillow behind you for some support into your head. Good. Condensed version. So here as we lay in stillness, bringing your free hand on your baby and closing the eyes. So we'll take a nice big inhalation, breathing in towards your baby, acknowledging their space and presence in this moment with a nice big audible exhale out. So one more as such, take a full inhalation to lift towards the baby, towards your chest, your heart, and then nice big exhale to let go. The space between the eyebrow remains still relaxed. Your lips are together. Separate the teeth. Let the tongue slowly fall to the bottom of the mouth. So at this moment, bringing your attention, your awareness to your back of your sacrum, to your lower back. We want to feel this exhalation and this presence of movement and breath into the back line of your body. So we're working on a lot of movement up the front line of the body, but now as you exhale, can you release into the back line of the body? Coming back to that equal breathing, back to your count as you inhale, lifting the breath upwards, and nice, slow, long, deep exhalation out. So no matter what presents itself for you tomorrow, or as you move towards your due date and you start to feel the signs of early labor, sometimes that's your water breaking, sometimes that's your loss of your mucus plug, sometimes that's contractions. Whatever it is that becomes your sign, remember not to move into panic or fear. Place your hand on your baby, place your hand on your heart, close your eyes, and come back to this equal breathing. The importance of this equal breathing is also incredibly important for your parasympathetic nervous system, your sympathetic nervous system, your autonomic nervous system. And this is the system responsible for that rest or digest. It's going to release stress-reducing hormones, natural endorphins to help you connect and deal with some of the intensity of these early labor symptoms. So always bring your energy into this space, into moving towards integrating your awareness with your baby, to integrating your awareness with your breath, to integrating your awareness into your physical self. It all works together. I will leave you here to have a nice, peaceful, restful Shavasana. Please take as much time as you need. Have such a wonderful rest. Namaste, mamas.